As we know with the medical devices regulation, it's introduced some really critical changes that we need to be aware of. A lot of new products have come into scope of the MDR. There's a lot of up-classifications, particularly with software, and a much greater emphasis on clinical data. It also introduces the concept of oversight panels at the commission level. For the IVDR, there's an entirely new classification system. Much more notified body involvement compared to the IVD. I think this was a bit of a seismic shift for the IVD industry. As with the MDR, greater emphasis on performance evaluation and clinical data, but also we have the introduction of EU reference labs, which is another big change for the IVD industry. And for both of the regulations, there is a huge change in the technical documentation requirements, particularly around post-market surveillance and vigilance and clinical evaluation. And a big piece that's important for users is increased transparency on clinical data availability via UDEMED. So this is going to be a big change for users as well as manufacturers within our industry. Focusing a bit more on the MDR, and just as a bit of a reminder, a lot of devices are going to require MDR certification by the 26th of May 2020. As we're talking today, we're 12 months and a few days away from that deadline, so it's approaching really quickly. So if you fall into any of the categories around Class 1 reusable surgical instruments, software that was Class 1 under the directives but have now been upgraded, devices utilizing human tissue, which some are now in the regulation, devices without a medical purpose, cosmetic devices, and Article 117 drug device combinations, and also the custom-made Class 3 implants. So these all now fall under the remit of the medical devices regulation, and we only have just over 12 months before these devices need to have an MDR certificate to be able to continue to be placed on the market. So these are really important deadlines. Consequently, the Commission has been a little bit busy. Contrary to popular belief, they haven't been silent. Recently, we had the MDR IVDR core agenda published. And over the last few months, there's also been a raft of other documents, guidance documents, 13 documents on different topics around UDI, certificates, legacy devices, Article 54, etc. A couple of documents on UDEMED and the functional specification that we can expect to see for the database. And then there's various other ones coming out of different working groups around classification, borderline, that kind of thing. So a lot of work has been going on. For the MDR, the core agenda fixed quite a lot of typographical errors, unintended omissions, that sort of thing. And for those of you who have 2A, 2B non-implantable devices and may thought you might get away with just having a really robust clinical evaluation, sorry to say the core agenda has corrected that, and you do need to have full conformity assessment of those devices as well. The good news, and this is very welcome news given the resource constraints that the notified bodies are already under, is that technical sampling will cover the range of devices and not all devices. It's a key change in the wording from the regulation to the core agenda. So this takes us back into the realm of sampling like we have under the directive. So that was a really important change, and it was a very welcome change. For the IVDR core agenda, again, similar key points around fixing of typographical errors and some omissions. Key change to one of the key standards, it now references 20916 on clinical performance rather than 14155. It also specifies that Class B devices require a technical documentation assessment, and also for B and C devices that the full conformity assessment is required. As for MDR, again, for B and C, the sampling now can cover the range of devices and not every single specific device. I think for the IVD industry in particular, given that the substantial shift and the heavier involvement of notified bodies in conformity assessment for IVD devices, this is a really important clarification for IVD manufacturers.